Welcome back to Echoes of Empires, the podcast where we unravel the epic tales of history's mightiest realms and the unexpected twists that reshaped our world. I'm Alex, your guide through the battles and backrooms of the past.
And I'm Mia, here to spotlight the drama, the personalities, and those mind-bending connections that make history feel alive. In our last episode, we explored how the fall of Constantinople in 1453 sent shockwaves that indirectly shielded the Protestant Reformation. Today, we're zooming in on one of history's most charismatic and fearsome leaders, Suleiman the Magnificent, the Ottoman Sultan who ruled from 1520 to 1566. For nearly half a century, he turned the Ottoman Empire into a superpower that terrified Europe. But his relentless push westward didn't just conquer lands, it sparked a chain reaction. European fear drove the search for new trade routes, leading to the accidental discovery of the Americas, the rise of colonial empires, the Enlightenment, revolutionary upheavals, the Industrial Revolution, and, ironically, the slow unraveling of the very empire he built. Let's dive deep into this butterfly effect of ambition.
Suleiman ascends the throne in September 2050 at just 26 years old, already battle-hardened from governing provinces like Manisa. He inherits a thriving empire from his father, Selim I, who had doubled its size by conquering the Mamluks in Egypt and Syria. Under Suleiman, the Ottoman realm explodes to its Golden Age zenith, stretching over 15 million square kilometers across 3 continents, Europe, Asia, and Africa, with a population of 25 to 30 million diverse subjects. He's not just a warrior. He's a reformer. Known as Kanuni, the lawgiver to his people, he codifies laws, blending Islamic Sharia with secular Kanun, creating a more efficient bureaucracy. He builds grand mosques like the Süleymaniye in Istanbul, designed by the genius architect Sinan, and fosters arts, poetry, and science. But to Europeans, he's the Magnificent, a title laced with awe and dread for his opulent court and unstoppable military machine.
Absolutely, Alex. Suleiman's court in Istanbul was a marvel. Silk-clad viziers, exotic animals in the gardens, and a harem intrigue that inspired operas centuries later. His beloved wife, Hurrem Sultan, or Roxolana, rose from slave to empress, influencing policy and even diplomacy. But let's talk about the fear he instilled in Europe. From the moment he takes power, Suleiman launches campaigns that make Christendom quake. In 1521, he captures Belgrade, the key to Hungary, after a brutal siege, where his massive cannons, echoing those used by Mehmed I, pound the walls into rubble. Then, in 1526, at the Battle of Mohacs, his 100,000-strong army annihilates the Hungarian forces in just 2 hours. King Louis II drowns fleeing the field, and Hungary fractures. Much of it falls under Ottoman suzerainty. European diplomats are horrified. One Venetian ambassador reports Suleiman's chilling words, "Certainly, but only after I have captured Rome." That's right, he's eyeing the heart of Catholicism.
The panic escalates with the sieges of Vienna. In 1529, Suleiman marches 120,000 troops and 300 cannons to the Habsburg capital. Rain turns the roads to mud, delaying his artillery, but his forces still surround the city for weeks, mining tunnels under the walls and launching assaults. Vienna holds by a thread. Defenders pour boiling oil on attackers, and disease ravages both sides. Suleiman withdraws due to winter, but not before leaving Europe in shock. Charles V, Holy Roman Emperor, writes to his wife in 1532 as Suleiman prepares another advance. "The Turkish menace has increased so much that I have even considered coming to an agreement with the Lutherans in order to prevent worse disaster." That's how dire it was. Religious enemies in Europe contemplating truces to face the Ottoman threat.
And it's not just land wars. Suleiman's navy, under the infamous Admiral Hayreddin Barbarossa, dominates the Mediterranean. In 1538, at the Battle of Preveza, Barbarossa crushes a Holy League fleet, making the sea an Ottoman lake. Raids on Italian and Spanish coasts enslave thousands. Even Iceland prays for deliverance from the terror of the Turk. As the humanist Erasmus lamented in 1521, the Turk will invade with all his forces to do battle for the great prize, whether Christian or Turk be monarch of the entire globe, for the world can no longer bear to have two suns in the sky. Suleiman saw himself as the universal ruler, heir to Alexander the Great, clashing with Charles V's own imperial dreams. Another diplomat, the Italian poet Ludovico Ariosto, echoed this. Now there were two suns shining upon the globe, two rulers vying for supremacy.
This existential fear had profound economic repercussions. The Ottomans controlled the lucrative overland and sea trade routes to the east, spices from India, silk from China, all funneled through Istanbul or Alexandria. Europeans paid exorbitant tariffs and markups to Ottoman-approved middlemen like Venetians. Suleiman's wars made these routes even more precarious. Blockades, piracy, and tolls skyrocketed costs. As one European merchant complained in diplomatic dispatches, the Turks' grip on trade chokes our prosperity. Desperate, Portugal and Spain seek alternatives. Prince Henry the Navigator had started African explorations in the 1410s, but Ottoman pressure accelerates it. Vasco da Gama rounds the Cape of Good Hope in 1498, reaching India by sea, bypassing Ottoman lands entirely. And Christopher Columbus? In 1492, backed by Spain's Ferdinand and Isabella, fresh from the Reconquista victory at Granada, he sails west to find a direct path to Asia. Instead, he discovers the Americas, lands teeming with gold, silver, and new resources. Was it accidental? Partly, but Ottoman dominance was the push factor.
From there, the dominoes tumble. The Treaty of Tordesillas in 1494 divides the New World between Spain and Portugal. Conquistadors like Cortés and Pizarro topple Aztec and Inca empires, shipping mountains of silver back home. Over 180 tons annually by the 1600s. This price revolution inflates Europe's economy, but funds massive growth. New banks in Antwerp and Amsterdam, joint stock companies like the Dutch East India Company in 1602. Colonialism explodes. Plantations in the Caribbean for sugar, tobacco in Virginia, all powered by the tragic Atlantic slave trade. Europe accumulates unprecedented wealth, shifting power from Mediterranean states to Atlantic ones like England, France, and the Netherlands.
That colonial bounty fertilizes intellectual soil for the Enlightenment. Global encounters expose Europeans to diverse cultures, challenging old dogmas. Thinkers like John Locke draw from American state of nature ideas in his 1689 Two Treatises of Government, advocating natural rights and limited monarchy. Voltaire praises non-European societies in Candide, 1759, to critique absolutism. Montesquieu's Spirit of the Laws, 1748, influences separation of powers, inspired by Persian and Ottoman observations, ironically from travelogues born of Ottoman fascination. This ferment boils over into revolutions. The American Revolution, 1776, cites Enlightenment ideals in the Declaration of Independence. Then the French Revolution, 1789, topples Louis XVI with cries of liberty, equality, fraternity. Nationalism surges. People demand nation-states, eroding multi-ethnic empires like the Ottomans.
Enter the Industrial Revolution, kicking off in Britain around 1760 with inventions like James Watt's steam engine in 1769 and the spinning jenny in 1764. Coal-powered factories mass-produce textiles, iron, and machinery. Railroads like the Stockton and Darlington in 1825 connect empires. Europe leaps ahead. Britain's GDP triples between 1700 and 1820. Colonies provide raw materials. Cotton from India, now under British control, post-1757 Plassey, and markets for finished goods. Ottomans, they lag. Conservative janissaries block reforms. The printing press, invented in 1440, isn't widely adopted until the 1720s due to religious opposition. No industrial coal rush. Instead, cheap European imports devastate Ottoman artisans. As French traveler Jean de Thévenot noted in the 1650s, the empire had a strong agricultural base, but by the 1800s, it's drowning in debt.
The decline accelerates. Suleiman's successors face internal rot, corrupt sultans, palace coups. Nationalism fragments the empire. Greeks win independence in 1830 after the 1821 revolt, assisted by European Romanticism. Lord Byron dies fighting for them. Balkan Wars, 1875 to 78, carve out Serbia, Romania, Bulgaria. The sick man of Europe label sticks after the Crimean War, 1853–56, where Britain and France prop up the Ottomans against Russia, but extract economic concessions, like the capitulations, giving Europeans extraterritorial rights. Tanzimat reforms, 1839–76, modernize laws and education, but they're patchwork, too little against industrialized foes. By 1914, the empire shrunk, riddled with debt and revolts.
Suleiman the Magnificent, warrior, lawgiver, terror of Europe, unwittingly sowed his empire's downfall. His threats birthed a new world order, exploration, colonies, ideas, machines. What if he hadn't besieged Vienna? Would the Americas remain unknown longer? Would revolutions ignite elsewhere?
Fascinating questions. Listeners, share your takes in the comments. Was Suleiman's magnificence his empire's curse? Subscribe for more epic connections. Next episode, we'll tackle World War I and how it shattered empires, redrew maps, and set the stage